In 1986, Alan Moore released Watchmen, which is one of the greatest graphic novels of all time and is also one of the greatest novels of all time, being ranked at number 18 on Time's 100 greatest novels of all time. And so it was a very difficult task to bring this comic book into the live action realm and to make it into a film. And the only director who even wanted to take on the challenge of adapting such a novel was, in fact, Zack Snyder. And now, Zack Snyder is one of the most polarizing directors of all time. Some people really love his movies, some people really hate his movies. And I'm very much in the middle. I like some of his movies, but I also dislike some of his movies. And because this is an episode of Cinema's Finest, it's safe to say that I absolutely love this movie. Do I think that it is as good as the graphic novel? Absolutely not. I haven't even finished reading the graphic novel. I watched this movie for the first time before I read the graphic novel. So I actually do not, I actually haven't read the graphic novel fully. And I got to know Watchmen and this entire story from watching the movie for the first time and watching it on subsequent repeats. And so I haven't finished the novel, but I can already tell you that the Watchmen graphic novel is better than the film. However, this movie is absolutely incredible, and I do think that it is a masterpiece. Zack Snyder definitely had a difficult time trying to take as much of the amazing elements from the comic book as possible, like as many amazing elements from the comic book as possible, and putting them onto the big screen, while also ensuring that there wasn't too much like fluff. You didn't want to have too much filler in this movie, and there definitely isn't a lot of like filler or like bloat in this movie. This movie very much feels like it was taken straight out of the pages of the comics. There are a few things that are different and are changed. And from what I've read about the graphic novel, there are a few key differences towards the end that the movie does differently to the graphic novel. But in all honesty, that really doesn't matter because this movie is just fantastic the way it is. I don't think that I think that if it was adapted like page for page from the graphic novel, I feel like I wouldn't enjoy the movie as much. I enjoy the movie as much as I do because of the key differences or like the slight differences from the comic to live action, I guess. And I mean, if we're being real, we could just start with the characters, honestly. Rorschach is probably one of my favorite vigilante characters of all time. When I first watched this movie, I was like, "Who the heck is this dude, bro?" With the Rorschach ink mask, bro. And I just fell in love with this. I just fell in love with the character, dude. He's flipping awesome, man. He's a very simple. He's kind of a detective vigilante like Batman, but he's very much like a poor version of Batman. He doesn't have any of the cool gadgets. Like, I mean, in this movie, he literally makes a flamethrower out of like spray can or an aerosol can and a lighter like a match, right? So he's like very much a poor man's version of Batman, but he's so cool, and his narration with the use of his journal, the same way that they do it in the graphic novel, is absolutely incredible. He's so menacing and badass, and the scenes with him in the prison were flipping awesome, man. Night Owl is definitely also pretty much another version of Batman, except he's got the gadgets, he's got the gear, and he's got the suit as well. He's definitely like he's got the stuff, right? Rorschach is like the detective vigilante aspect of Batman, and then Night Owl's got like the gadgets and like the gear that Batman has, right? So they both definitely drew some different inspirations from Batman, but I really, really do like Night Owl's character, and I think Patrick Wilson is actually a fantastic choice to play the new version of Night Owl because he's I guess he's the successor of the previous Night Owl from the Minutemen, right? And then we have Ozymandias. Ozymandias doesn't have as many appearances compared to the other characters in the Watchmen, but the dude is a show stealer, man. Especially towards the end, he is incredible, and the dude is so flipping cool, man. And I think he also takes inspiration from Batman because he's a billionaire, he's a genius, he's a very skilled hand-to-hand combatant. Like he's just awesome. He's just awesome. And there's also Silk Spectre, who is kind of she's a very I guess doesn't really draw inspiration from any characters particularly. Um, but she is a very great character. She's also a successor to her mother because she's Silk Spectre the second. And the first Silk Spectre is again a member of the previous team, the predecessor to the Watchmen. And then, of course, there is the comedian who is very much he's I wouldn't say he's morally gray because like he's almost like downright like a bad guy. Like he's a bad dude, man. Seriously, I mean the stuff that he's done in his past, he's definitely like ooh, like this guy's trouble, man. This guy's real trouble. He's still a hero technically, but he's like 55% villain and like 45% like good guy. And I think that's another thing that makes this world so interesting. Like the superheroes in this world are very much like morally gray. There isn't like a an upright citizen. There isn't like an upright, like morally like hopeful and cheerful hero, kind of like how we have Superman in the main DC universe, who is like just full of hope and like is a symbol of hope. Or like in Marvel, we have like Spider-Man, who's like your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. There's nothing like that in this world. It's very much like these characters are very dark, like very dark, morally gray. Some of them like do some very like very evil acts, and then like some of them are trying to do good, but they live in a world that's so brutal and so harsh that it forces them to become more brutal and harsh. And of course, I forgot to talk about Dr. Manhattan, of course, who is arguably at this point one of the most iconic DC superheroes. He's one of the most powerful DC characters of all time, and he was brought to life in this story in Watchmen, and he is definitely a character who he's pretty much just devoid of like he's not entirely devoid of emotion, but you can tell that he's pretty much lost touch with humanity after his accident and what it took for him to become Dr. Manhattan. And so we kind of see a lot of that throughout the movie. We see his origin story of how he became Dr. Manhattan, and I think it's just incredible. I think Dr. Manhattan's a very interesting character. He's one of the most interesting like like ultra powerful characters, because with a lot of ultra powerful characters the focus like on them is just how powerful and how strong they are. There's not a lot of like character work for some of them, right? Not all of them, because a lot of them do have like deep character work, but some of them kind of just like get turned into like, oh, like basically like super power device, like they just get turned into like devices to drive the plot, you know. And you can definitely like Dr. Manhattan is definitely used to drive the plot in this movie at certain points, but there's also like a dive into how he became what he is and why he is what he is. And so there's definitely some depth to his character through that. And so I very much appreciated what they did with his character and what they were able to do with such a powerful characters to make it so that he wasn't boring, but he was also like very interesting while also being very powerful, because the dude can pretty much do anything, right? And yeah, I mean the characters in this movie are just incredible, and I think the way that they did the character work is like this is some of I think one of the reasons why the graphic novel is so celebrated is because the character work that they do in the graphic novel and also for this movie is just it's absolutely phenomenal, dude. All these characters are very interesting, very like morally gray. Like there's a lot of interesting like aspects to their characters, and it's just very very beautiful to see a bunch of well written characters come together in like the form of a team. And I think it's incredible. I think it's incredible, and the characters drive the plot really well. Of course, there's some solid action sequences. The prison break, the prison sequence to save Rorschach. Um, there's so much. There's a lot of action in this movie, definitely for sure. So you'll definitely be eating in that department as well. If you haven't seen this movie, of course. But I'm sure most of you watching probably have seen this movie because it is Watchmen at this point is pretty much one of the most celebrated comic book stories of all time, and it is the greatest graphic novel and greatest like story ever told. And Zack Snyder did a really good job, even with like little Easter eggs, little hints from things from the comics. If you pay close attention to the movie, I definitely recommend that. Like, if you want to get like a full scope of of Zack Snyder's vision, I always recommend watching the Ultimate Edition or the director's cut. I think the Watchmen director's cut is like way better than the theatrical cut. I do enjoy the theatrical cut, but this cut is absolutely like so much better. I think it's way better. So yeah, definitely watch the director's cut if you want to get a full scope. So if you have seen this movie, whether you like it or not, you definitely have to admit that Zack Snyder really did give it his all. It's very difficult to tackle such a rich and deep and well written story as like Watchmen. So you're tackling one of the greatest graphic novels of all time. So it's very difficult to try get everything perfect. And this isn't a perfect movie by any means, but in my humble opinion, it is a masterpiece. And that's pretty much going to conclude it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm sorry I haven't been uploading as often, but I will be getting back on schedule, and I will see y'all next time. Goodbye.